The text came on a Thursday afternoon in late July, interrupting my half-hearted attempt to find purpose in my post-graduation summer. Parents are going to their cabin this weekend. Want to come over? We can finally finish that campaign we abandoned. Danny. Danny Rodriguez had been my best friend since sophomore year of high school, the kind of friendship that survived distance when we went to different colleges, survived my coming out junior year with nothing but support, survived every major life event with the reassuring constant of his presence. "You had me at abandoned campaign. What time?" I typed back. "Friday after work, stay the whole weekend. Mom's making you empanadas before they leave because she's convinced you're starving. Your mom is a saint, I'll be there." My name is Adrian Torres, 22 years old, recently graduated with a degree in English that my practical-minded father viewed with polite skepticism. I was living in my childhood bedroom in Seattle, working at a bookstore while I figured out what came next, and deeply grateful for friends who still wanted to hang out despite my complete lack of direction. What the text didn't mention, what neither Danny nor I ever really discussed, was that his older brother would probably be there. Ethan Rodriguez, 26 years old, 4 years older than Danny and me, which had seemed like an unbridgeable gap when we were teenagers but felt less significant now that I was an adult. He'd been away at grad school for the past 3 years, architecture at Cornell, but I knew he'd recently moved back to Seattle after getting a job at some prestigious firm. I'd had a crush on Ethan since I was 16 years old. Not the casual, easily dismissed kind of crush. The devastating, all-consuming kind that I'd spent 6 years trying to bury because he was my best friend's older brother, because he was straight as far as I knew, because nothing good could come from wanting someone so comprehensively unavailable. "You're thinking about him again," my roommate and fellow bookstore employee Jesse said when he caught me staring into space later that afternoon. "I don't know what you're talking about. You get this specific look, like you're mentally writing tragic poetry. It's the Ethan look." "There's no Ethan look. Adrian, I've known you for 3 months and even I can identify the Ethan look. You need to either tell him how you feel or get over it." Option 3, continue suffering in dignified silence. That's not healthy. Neither is risking my best friendship by confessing feelings for his straight older brother who probably doesn't even remember I exist. Jesse gave me a look that suggested I was being deliberately obtuse. "Has it occurred to you that he might not be straight, that you might not be as invisible as you think?" Ethan dated Jessica Harrison for 3 years in college. I Facebook stalked extensively, very thorough heterosexual evidence. Bisexuality exists, also Facebook stalking is creepy. It's not stalking if the profile is public, that's just research. "You're hopeless, go to your friend's house," pine dramatically, report back with details. Friday evening arrived with the weight of all my complicated feelings about the Rodriguez house. I'd spent countless weekends there during high school. Danny's house had been a refuge when my own home felt too small, too tense with my parents' unspoken worry about my future. Mrs. Rodriguez had treated me like a second son. Mr. Rodriguez had taught me to change a tire and make proper carne asada. And Ethan had been the golden child I'd watched from a distance, equal parts intimidated and infatuated. When I pulled up to the familiar house in the suburbs, Danny was already waiting on the porch. "You're late," he called out. "Mom's been hovering over the empanadas for 20 minutes, worried you wouldn't get here before they left." "I'm 10 minutes late, that's barely late." "Try telling her that." He pulled me into a hug that felt like coming home. "It's good to see you, man. Feel like we barely hung out this summer." "That's because you have a job that requires actual hours. Some of us are part-time retail workers with minimal responsibilities." "You're figuring things out, that's allowed." He grabbed one of my bags. "Fair warning, Ethan's here. He's been weird all week, something about work stress. Try not to take it personally if he's antisocial." My stomach did something complicated. "He's staying the weekend too." "Yeah, why is that a problem?" No problem, just surprised. Doesn't he have his own place?" "He does, but he's been coming over a lot lately. I think he's lonely. The move back from New York was rough on him." We went inside to the chaos of Mrs. Rodriguez finishing last-minute preparations while simultaneously interrogating me about whether I was eating enough vegetables. You look thin, she declared, which was her standard greeting. I made extra empanadas and there's food in the fridge. Make sure Danny feeds you actual meals, not just pizza. Mom, we're adults, we can feed ourselves. You're barely adults. Adrian, promise me you'll eat properly. I promise, Mrs. Rodriguez. Good boy, she kissed my forehead and handed me a container of empanadas still warm from the oven. Now, we're leaving. Emergency numbers are on the fridge. Ethan's in charge. Ethan's in charge, Danny protested. I'm 22, I can be in charge. Ethan's older, he's in charge, don't burn down the house. After they left in a flurry of last-minute instructions, the house settled into quiet. Danny and I were setting up in the living room for our game when Ethan emerged from his childhood bedroom. I hadn't seen him in person in over a year. Video calls and social media hadn't prepared me for the reality of him in 3 dimensions. He'd changed, filled out in the way people do in their mid-20s, his features sharper, more defined. He wore a gray t-shirt and jeans, his dark hair slightly too long, curling at the ends. He had his father's build and his mother's eyes, and he looked tired in a way that went beyond physical exhaustion. Hey, Adrian, he said, and his voice was exactly as I remembered, warm, slightly rough. Long time. Hey, Ethan, yeah, it's been a while. You graduated, right? Congratulations. Thanks, heard you're back in Seattle. How's the architecture world treating you? Something flickered across his face. It's fine, good, yeah, it's good. Danny shot me a look that clearly communicated weird. We're doing a campaign, Danny said. You're welcome to join if you want. Thanks, but I've got work to catch up on. You guys have fun. Ethan grabbed a beer from the fridge and disappeared back into his room. Told you, Danny muttered. Weird. We spent the evening the way we always had, laughing over ridiculous character choices, arguing good-naturedly about strategy, falling into the comfortable rhythm of a friendship that needed no performance. Around midnight, Danny's girlfriend Sarah called, and he disappeared into his room for what he promised would be just a few minutes, but which I knew from experience would be at least an hour. I was in the kitchen making tea when Ethan emerged again. Can't sleep, I asked. Something like that? He leaned against the counter and I was suddenly acutely aware of how alone we were. You want something stronger than tea? I've got whiskey in my room. I'm good with tea, but thanks. Still responsible, some things don't change. He smiled and it did dangerous things to my heart rate. You were always the one keeping Danny out of trouble. Someone had to, he has terrible judgment. True, remember when he tried to skateboard off the garage roof? I had nightmares for weeks. Your mom almost killed him. She almost killed both of us. I was the one who built the ramp. He shook his head. God, we were stupid kids. You were 22, old enough to know better. 22 felt ancient then, now it feels, he stopped. It feels very young. There was something in his tone I couldn't identify, regret maybe, or nostalgia. Are you okay? I asked. Danny said you've been stressed. Danny worries too much, I'm fine. That's not what I asked. He looked at me for a long moment and I felt seen in a way that made me deeply uncomfortable. You always did that, called me on my bullshit. You always did the same to me. Did I? I mostly remember you being impossibly mature, like you had everything figured out. I definitely did not have anything figured out, I was a disaster. You were valedictorian, you got into every college you applied to, you seemed pretty figured out to me. Externally maybe, internally I stopped, not sure why I was being this honest. I was struggling with a lot. Coming out. My chest tightened, among other things. That was brave what you did, I remember thinking. He stopped again. Seeming to reconsider his words, I remember thinking you were the bravest person I knew. I didn't feel brave, I felt terrified. That's what bravery is though, doing the terrifying thing anyway. We stood in the kitchen in our pajamas at 1 in the morning, and I felt the air between us charge with something I didn't have a name for. I should let you get to bed, Ethan said finally, early morning tomorrow. Working on Saturday. Always working, story of my life lately. That sounds exhausting. It is, he pushed off the counter. Good to see you, Adrian, really it's good that you're here. After he left, I stood in the kitchen for several minutes trying to process the conversation, the way he'd looked at me, the things he'd almost said. I told myself I was reading too much into it, that years of wanting had made me see things that weren't there. I told myself a lot of things that night. None of them felt true. Saturday passed in a pleasant blur of laziness, sleeping late, eating too much, the comfortable nothing of time spent with a good friend. Ethan was mostly absent, holed up in his room with his laptop, emerging only occasionally for food or coffee. Each time he appeared, I felt that same electric awareness, the hyper-conscious of every word, every glance. "He's been like this for weeks," Danny said during one of Ethan's absences. "I'm actually worried about him. He won't talk about what's wrong. Maybe it's just work stress." "Maybe, but it feels like more than that." Danny paused his game. "Did he seem okay to you last night?" I thought about our kitchen conversation, about the weight of unspoken things. "I don't know, he seemed sad maybe, or lost." "Yeah, that's the word, lost." Danny shook his head. "I hate seeing him like this. He's always been the one with the plan, the golden child who knew exactly what he wanted, and now he's back here living in his childhood bedroom and he won't tell me what's wrong." "Have you tried asking directly?" "Multiple times." He deflects, changes the subject, does the big brother thing where he turns it around and asks about me instead. "Sounds familiar." "Right, must run in the family." Danny unpaused the game. "Whatever, if he wants to talk he'll talk, can't force it." Around 8 p.m. Sarah came over and the dynamic shifted. Not uncomfortably. Sarah was great and she'd always been welcoming to me, but enough that I felt like the third wheel. "I'm going to read," I said after an hour of being the audience to their couple dynamic. "You two enjoy your evening." "You don't have to leave," Danny protested. "I'm not leaving, I'm just going to the guest room. Come get me if you want to actually hang out versus making eyes at each other." I retreated to the guest room, really more of an office with a pull-out couch, with my book and my phone. But I couldn't concentrate on reading. My mind kept drifting to Ethan, to our conversation last night, to the impossible situation of wanting someone so completely unavailable. Around 10, there was a soft knock on the door. "Come in," I called, expecting Danny. It was Ethan. "Hey," he said, hovering in the doorway. "Am I interrupting?" "Just reading or trying to, what's up?" "I was wondering if you wanted to." He stopped, seemingly second-guessing himself. "There's a late-night bookstore downtown, the one that's open until midnight on Saturdays. I was thinking of going, thought you might want to come." My heart rate spiked. A bookstore together, just us. "Unless you'd rather not, I could use the company, and I remember you always liked that place." He remembered my favorite bookstore from years ago. "Yeah," I heard myself say, "yeah, I'd like that." "Great, give me 5 minutes to grab my keys." The drive downtown was quiet but not uncomfortable. Ethan played music I recognized from high school, the indie bands Danny and I had been obsessed with, the soundtrack of being 17 and feeling everything too intensely. "You still listen to the National?" I asked. "Some things don't change, you still write." "How did you?" "Danny mentioned it, said you were working on something, a novel." "I don't know if I'd call it a novel, more like an extended exercise in avoiding real life." "That's what all writing is though, controlled avoidance." "That's remarkably insightful for someone who builds things for a living." "Buildings are their own kind of story, you're just telling it in space instead of words." "I never thought about it that way." "Most people don't, they see architecture as purely functional, but it's not. It's about creating experiences, shaping how people move through the world." "You love it, what you do." Something in his expression closed off. "I used to. And now?" "Now I don't know, that's the problem." We'd arrived at the bookstore, a beautiful old building with high ceilings and exposed brick, the kind of place that felt like a sanctuary. At this hour it was nearly empty, just us and a few other night-dwelling readers. Ethan and I drifted to different sections, him to architecture and design, me to fiction, but I found myself watching him across the store. The way he pulled books from shelves with careful consideration, the way he read back covers with complete focus, the way he looked like he belonged in spaces filled with words and ideas. He caught me staring. "Find anything?" he asked, crossing to where I stood. "Still looking, you?" "Maybe." He held up a book on sustainable design, trying to remember why I got into this in the first place. You're having a crisis. Is it that obvious? Only to people paying attention. And you're paying attention. The question felt loaded with more than curiosity. I try to, I said carefully, with people I care about. You care about me. Of course, you're Danny's brother, I stopped, not sure how to finish that sentence safely. I'm what? Important, you're an important person. Something shifted in his expression. Adrian, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you ever feel like you're living the wrong life, like you made all the right choices according to everyone else's definition of right, but now you're here and nothing feels the way it's supposed to? The vulnerability in the question stripped away any pretense of casual conversation. Every day, I said honestly, I spent 4 years studying something I loved and now I have a degree I don't know what to do with. My parents want me to be practical, get a real job, but I don't even know what that means for me. So yeah, wrong life, constantly. How do you deal with it? Not well, I exist in the uncertainty, try to be okay with not having answers. I'm not good at that, I've always been the one with the plan. Plans can change, that's not failure. Feels like failure. I spent 3 years in grad school, got a job everyone said I should want, moved back here for it, and every morning I wake up and think, is this it? Is this what I worked for? What would you rather be doing? He laughed, bitter. That's the question, isn't it? I don't even know anymore. I used to have this vision of designing buildings that mattered, spaces that improved people's lives. Now I design luxury condos for people with too much money. It's not what I wanted. So change it. It's not that simple. I have loans, obligations, expectations. Whose expectations? Your parents, they'd support you no matter what. Society's expectations, my own expectations. I'm supposed to have everything figured out at 26. That's bullshit, nobody has anything figured out, we're all just pretending and hoping it becomes real. He smiled, a real smile this time. When did you get so wise? I'm not wise, I'm just really good at rationalizing my own failures. You're not a failure, Adrian, he stopped, his eyes searching my face. You're one of the most remarkable people I've ever met. The words hung between us, heavy with meaning I was afraid to examine. We should probably head back, I said, my voice not entirely steady. It's getting late. The drive home was quieter than the drive there, both of us lost in thoughts we didn't share. But when we pulled into the driveway, Ethan didn't immediately turn off the car. Thank you, he said, for tonight, for listening, for not making me feel crazy for questioning everything. You're not crazy, you're human, humans question things. I forget that sometimes, that it's okay to not have all the answers. It's more than okay, it's necessary. He turned to look at me and in the dim light from the dashboard, his expression was unguarded in a way I'd never seen. I'm glad you're here this weekend, he said quietly. I needed to talk to someone who gets it. I'm glad I'm here too. We sat in the driveway for another moment before finally going inside. Danny and Sarah were asleep on the couch. The TV playing some late-night show neither of them was watching. Guess we're not the only ones up late, Ethan whispered. Guess not. Good night, Adrian. Good night, Ethan. I went to bed that night with my thoughts in chaos, replaying every moment of the evening, trying to parse what was real and what was projection. The way he'd looked at me, the things he'd said, the feeling that something significant had shifted but I couldn't name what. Sleep didn't come easily. And when it did, I dreamed of bookstores and impossible conversations and the weight of wanting someone I couldn't have. Sunday morning arrived with the particular quiet of houses where everyone slept late. I woke around 9 to voices in the kitchen, Ethan and Danny, arguing about something in Spanish too rapid for me to follow even if I'd been fluent. The argument ended with laughter, the comfortable bickering of brothers who loved each other despite everything. When I emerged, showered and dressed, Danny was making eggs while Ethan scrolled through his phone at the kitchen table. He lives, Danny announced. I thought you'd sleep until noon. It's 9:30, that's practically noon in weekend time. Fair, want eggs? I'm making enough for everyone. Sure, thanks. I sat across from Ethan, hyper-aware of his proximity, of the memory of last night still fresh. Sleep well, he asked without looking up from his phone. Eventually, you. About the same. Danny slid plates in front of us and sat down. So, plans for today: I need to take Sarah to the airport at 3, but we've got until then. I should probably get back to work, Ethan said. It's Sunday, you're allowed to take a day off. I've got a presentation Tuesday, need to prep. You've been prepping all weekend, one day won't kill you. You don't understand the workload. Then explain it to me, because from here it looks like you're using work to avoid dealing with whatever's actually wrong. The table went quiet, Ethan's jaw tightened. I'm fine, he said, his tone making it clear the conversation was over. Sure, fine, that's why you've been weird for weeks, that's why you barely sleep, that's why. Danny, my voice was quiet but firm, leave it. Danny looked at me, then at Ethan, then back at me. Fine, whatever, I'm going to shower. He left, leaving his eggs half-eaten on the plate. Ethan and I sat in the tense silence. You didn't have to do that, he said finally. Do what? Defend me, tell him to back off. He was pushing, you weren't ready to talk, someone needed to intervene. He's worried, he has a right to be. He does, but worry doesn't give him the right to push past your boundaries. Ethan looked at me and there was something raw in his expression. How are you so good at that, at seeing what people need? I'm not, I know what it's like to not be ready, to have people push before you've figured out what you want to say. Your parents when you came out. Among others, it took me a long time to find the words, to figure out how to explain something I barely understood myself. Do you, he stopped, seeming to wrestle with something, do you ever regret it coming out? The question felt significant in a way I couldn't quite grasp. No, it was hard and it changed relationships and some people never really understood, but I don't regret it, living honestly it's worth the cost. Even when the cost is high. Especially then because the cost of lying is higher, slower, it eats away at you until you don't recognize yourself anymore. He nodded slowly like I'd confirmed something he'd been thinking. I need to tell you something. My heart rate spiked. Okay. Not here, can we? Is there somewhere we can talk privately? The guest room. Yeah, okay, give me a minute. He disappeared into his room and returned with his laptop. We went to the guest room and he closed the door behind us, which felt significant and terrifying in equal measure. Adrian, he stopped, running a hand through his hair. God, I don't know how to say this. I've been trying to figure out how to say it all weekend. Whatever it is, just say it. I'm not going to judge you. That's what I'm afraid of, that you won't judge me, that you'll be kind about it and I'll feel even worse. Ethan, you're scaring me. What's going on? He sat on the pull-out couch and I sat beside him, giving him space but staying close enough to reach if he needed it. I'm not, he took a breath, I'm not straight. The words hit like a physical blow, not because they were shocking but because they were everything I'd never let myself hope for. Okay, I said, keeping my voice steady, thank you for telling me. That's it, just okay. What else do you want me to say? I don't know, I've been sitting with this for months, years really, and I finally say it out loud and you just okay. I'm trying to give you space to say what you need to say without making this about me. Right, thank you, he pressed his hands to his face. I've been lying to everyone for so long, including myself, especially myself. The relationship with Jessica was real, I did care about her, but there was always something missing, something I couldn't name because I wasn't ready to admit what it was. He dropped his hands, looking at me with desperate honesty. I'm bi or pan, I'm still figuring out the labels, but I know that I'm attracted to men, that I have been for a long time. Does Danny know? No, you're the first person I've told. Why me? Because he struggled for words. Because you're safe, because I trust you, because I've been watching you this weekend and you're so comfortable with who you are and I want that, I want to stop lying. I'm honored you told me, really, and for what it's worth I don't think less of you for taking time to figure this out. You should, I wasted years, I hurt Jessica by not being honest about why I couldn't give her what she wanted. I've been lying to my family, to Danny, to everyone. You were protecting yourself, that's not the same as lying maliciously. Feels the same from here. It's not, trust me. We sat in silence for a moment, then Ethan said very quietly, there's more. Okay. The reason I've been weird this weekend, The reason I wanted to talk to you, to spend time with you, he stopped. Adrian, I have feelings for you, have had them for years, since you were 17 and I was 21 and you came out and I realized what I'd been feeling wasn't just admiration or friendship, it was attraction, want, all the things I wasn't ready to admit about myself. The world tilted. You what? I know it's inappropriate, you're Danny's best friend, you're younger than me, you probably don't feel the same way, but I couldn't keep lying, not to you, you deserve honesty. Ethan, words failed me. You're serious, this isn't some crisis-driven confession you'll regret tomorrow. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. You've had feelings for me since I was 17. Since before that maybe, but I didn't have words for it until you came out, until I saw you being brave enough to live honestly and realized what I'd been running from. Why didn't you say anything? Because you were 17, because you were Danny's best friend, because I was dating Jessica and trying to convince myself I was straight, because I was a coward. His voice broke. Because I was too scared to risk everything for something I wanted but didn't understand. I was shaking, actually physically shaking. Adrian, say something please. I've been in love with you since I was 16 years old, I said, the words tumbling out. I've spent 6 years telling myself it was impossible, that you were straight, that even if you weren't it could never happen because of Danny, because of everything. And now you're telling me that I feel the same way, that I've felt the same way for years, that I want you and I'm terrified, but I'm more terrified of not trying. Ethan. He reached out and took my hand, his grip tight and desperate. I know this is complicated, I know we have to figure out how to tell Danny, how to navigate this without destroying everything, but Adrian, I can't keep pretending, I can't keep lying about what I feel, you make me want to be brave. Tears were burning behind my eyes. What are you saying, what do you want? I want to try this, to see if what I feel is real, if what you feel is real, if we can build something together. His voice dropped to a whisper. I want everything, Adrian, if you'll let me. I should have been rational, should have thought about all the complications, all the ways this could go wrong, all the reasons it was a terrible idea. Instead, I closed the distance between us and kissed him. He made a sound, surprise and relief and want all mixed together, and kissed me back like he'd been starving for it. His hands came up to cup my face and mine tangled in his hair, and for several perfect seconds there was nothing but this. The reality of Ethan Rodriguez kissing me, wanting me, being exactly where I'd dreamed he'd be for years. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to mine. Adrian, he whispered, Adrian, I know, me too. What do we do now? We figure it out together. Danny. We'll tell him when we're ready, when we've figured out what this is. What if he hates me, what if this ruins everything? He won't hate you, he loves you, and he loves me, he'll understand eventually. You sound very certain. I'm not, but I'm choosing hope over fear. That's very brave. I learned from the best. He kissed me again, softer this time, and I thought, this is what 6 years of wanting feels like when it finally becomes real. It felt like coming home. It felt like beginning. It felt like everything. We spent the next hour in the guest room, talking in the way people do when they're finally, terrifyingly honest with each other. Ethan told me about realizing his sexuality, about the panic and confusion and slow acceptance. I told him about watching him for years, about the careful distance I'd maintained, about teaching myself not to hope. I wish I'd known, he said at one point. I wish you'd told me. Would it have changed anything? You were with Jessica, you weren't ready. Maybe it would have pushed me to figure things out sooner. Or maybe it would have scared you back into the closet. There's no way to know, we can only work with now. Now, he repeated, what does now look like? Now we take this slow, we figure out what we are to each other without the audience of years of pinning, and we tell Danny, soon. Today. Not today, let's have a few hours of just us before we add complications. That's fair, selfish but fair. We're allowed to be selfish sometimes. Around noon, Danny knocked on the door. You guys alive in there? I'm leaving for the airport in 20 minutes. We separated quickly, suddenly aware of how this looked, the two of us alone in a room with the door closed. Yeah, we're good, I called out, be right there. After Danny left, the house felt different, charged with the knowledge of what had just happened, what we'd confessed, what we were now attempting to build. I should probably do some work, Ethan said, though he made no move to leave. But I don't want to. Revolutionary concept, taking a day off. Is that allowed? I'll give you permission if you need it. That's not how employment works. Humor mate. He smiled, the real smile, the one I was learning meant he was actually happy. Okay, one day off, what do you want to do? Can I see your work, the stuff you're designing? You actually want to see boring building plans. You said buildings tell stories, show me the stories you're telling. So he did. We spent the afternoon with his laptop between us while he walked me through his current projects, explaining design choices, pointing out how space flowed, showing me the difference between what he wanted to create and what he was actually hired to design. This is what I submitted, he said, pulling up renderings of a condo building. Glass and steel, expensive, soulless, exactly what they asked for. And this, I pointed to a different file. That's what I wanted to design. More sustainable materials, better use of natural light, communal spaces that actually encourage interaction. They rejected it immediately. Why? Doesn't maximize profit per square foot, doesn't appeal to the luxury market they're targeting. That's depressing. Welcome to architecture in late-stage capitalism. Is there a way to do what you actually want? Smaller projects, maybe, nonprofit work. Maybe, I've been thinking about it. There are firms that focus on affordable housing, sustainable design, community projects. They pay less and the work is harder, but it matters. Yeah, it matters. You should do it, apply to those firms, see what happens. Just like that, leave a stable job for something uncertain. Why not? Worst case scenario, you gain experience and connections. Best case, you end up somewhere that values what you value. You make it sound simple. It's not simple, but it's possible, and possible is enough to start with. He looked at me like I'd said something profound. How do you do that? Do what? Make me feel like things might actually work out. It's a gift, one of many. What are the others? Excessive modesty, unparalleled humility, the ability to eat an entire pizza in one sitting. He laughed and the sound felt like victory. I'm really glad you're here. Me too. Danny returned around 5:30, walking in to find us on the couch, close but not touching, watching some nature documentary neither of us was paying attention to. You two look cozy, he said, and there was something in his tone I couldn't quite read. Just hanging out, Ethan said too quickly. Adrian wanted to see some of my work stuff. Sure, Danny sat in the armchair across from us, so we need to talk. My stomach dropped. About whatever's been going on between you two all weekend. Ethan and I exchanged panicked looks. I don't know what, Ethan started. Don't lie to me, I've known you my whole life, Ethan. I know when you're hiding something, and Adrian, he turned to me, you've been acting weird since you got here, both of you have. Danny, we're not. I stopped, looking at Ethan. We'd agreed to tell him when we were ready, but apparently ready was now. We need to tell you something, Ethan said, his voice steadier than I felt, but I need you to let me finish before you react. Danny's expression went through several changes: concern, confusion, and finally understanding. Oh. You already know, I said. I suspected. The way you've been looking at each other isn't exactly subtle, but I was waiting for you to tell me. Ethan's hand found mine on the couch and I let him take it. How long have you known? About you having feelings for each other, like a day. About you, he gestured at Ethan. About you being into guys a while. You're not as good at hiding things as you think. And you're not mad. Why would I be mad? You're my brother and my best friend. I want you both to be happy. If that's with each other, he shrugged. That's better than either of you being with someone who doesn't get you. Relief flooded through me so intensely I felt lightheaded. Really, although I do have questions, like when this started, and what your plans are, and whether I'm going to have to mediate when you inevitably fight because you're both stubborn as hell. It just started today, technically, Ethan said, and we're figuring it out as we go. Very responsible, very well planned. We're trying our best. That's all anyone can do, Danny stood. I'm going to order pizza. You two can keep doing whatever you were doing, just maybe not in the living room when I'm around. Some things a brother doesn't need to see. After he left, Ethan and I sat in stunned silence. That went well, I said finally. Better than expected, way better. Your brother's pretty great. Yeah, he is, Ethan squeezed my hand. Adrian, I thank you for being brave enough to do this with me. Thank you for being brave enough to tell me how you feel. What happens now? Now we eat pizza and then we figure out what this looks like, one day at a time. One day at a time, he repeated. I think I can do that. We can do it together. Together, he said and smiled. I really like the sound of that. The coffee shop near my apartment had become our place. Ethan and I met there most Saturday mornings, him coming from his new apartment closer to downtown, me walking from mine. It had become ritual, coffee, pastries, conversation about everything and nothing. Today he had news. I got an offer, he said, sliding into the chair across from me, from that sustainable design firm I told you about. Ethan, that's incredible, did you accept? Not yet, wanted to talk to you first. Why? This is your career, your decision. Because it affects us, the pay is less than what I'm making now, hours are longer during project phases, it might mean I'm less available for, he gestured between us, for this. This being our relationship. Yeah. I took his hand across the table. If this job is what you want, what will make you happy, then you take it, we'll figure out the rest, that's what couples do. Couples, he repeated smiling, I like when you call us that. What else would we be? We've been dating for 3 months, you've met my parents, I'm pretty sure that makes us a couple. Fair point, your dad still terrify me. By the way, he's supposed to, that's his job. He asked me about my intentions, actually used that word, intentions. That sounds like him, what did you say? That I was serious about you, that I wanted to build something lasting, that I would never hurt you intentionally. And what did he say? That he'd hold me to that, very intimidating. You'll win him over, you won Thea over immediately. Your sister's easy, she just wanted someone who treated you well. And you do, so mission accomplished. Ethan's phone buzzed, he glanced at it and smiled. It's my mom, she wants to know if we're coming to Sunday dinner. Your family dinners are chaos. They are, but you love them. I do, your mom's empanadas are worth any amount of chaos. She loves you, they all do, my dad keeps asking when I'm going to propose. I choked on my coffee, he what? Asked when I'm going to propose, apparently 3 months is long enough to know. We've only been together 3 months, that's way too fast. I know that, he's old-fashioned, ignore him. But I couldn't quite read Ethan's expression, is it too fast to know? To propose, yes, absolutely, but to know that this is serious, that I want long-term, he squeezed my hand. No, that's not too fast, I've known that for years, being with you just confirmed it. I love you, I said, not for the first time but still feeling the weight of it. I love you too, even when you murder plants and make terrible puns. Those are my best qualities. They're really not, but I love them anyway. We finished our coffee talking about his job offer, my own recent promotion at the bookstore, Danny's upcoming move-in with Sarah. The conversation of people building lives together, planning futures, making space for each other. As we left the coffee shop, Ethan's arm around my waist, I thought about that weekend 3 months ago, about confessions and courage and the terrifying leap of honesty. Do you regret it? I asked, telling me how you felt. Best decision I ever made, why? Just thinking about how different things could have been, if you hadn't been brave enough to say something. We would have found our way eventually, some things are inevitable. You think we're inevitable? I know we are, have been since you were 16 and I was 20 and I didn't have the words for what I was feeling. That's very romantic. I have my moments. You have many moments, they're my favorite. Even the moments where I'm a disaster. Especially those, disasters are more interesting than perfection. Then you're in luck, I'm a disaster on a regular basis. Perfect, I wouldn't have it any other way. We walked back to my apartment hand in hand and I realized something, this was happiness, not the dramatic, overwhelming kind from movies and books, but the quiet, steady kind, the kind built from coffee dates and family dinners and choosing each other every day. 6 years of wanting had become 3 months of having, and it was better than anything I'd imagined. Because Ethan was real, flawed, and uncertain and figuring things out. And he chose me, every day despite the complications and the fears and the weight of years of hiding. He chose honesty, he chose bravery, he chose us. And I chose him right back. Again and again and again. For as long as he'd have me. Which if I was lucky would be forever.